With less than 3 weeks until the season starts, the Illini football team received some crushing news to its offense today.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So welcome back to the Illini cast. Thank you for making Locked On Illini your first listen every single day, except for you, Paul. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Sunny. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see a very blank background. I just finished my move today, and so I've got nothing unpacked, but there's obviously very big Illini football news, so I wanted to kind of address that for today's episode. You can find me at IlliniCast. You can find me at the Sunny V. Today we've got a really, really good show for you. Obviously, secret's out now. Cole Rusk, the tight end for the Illini, looks like he's going to be out for the entire season. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and the impact that's going to have and what it might mean for the upcoming football season. Then also, we're going to do our Iowa football team preview. So definitely make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to, support the show, that costs you nothing and is by far the easiest way. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So word was released somewhat early on Thursday that tight end Cole Rusk, the 6'5", 250-pound transfer that the Illini had gotten from Murray State, had gotten hurt and unfortunately suffered a season-ending injury. I'll just go ahead and read his exact quote on Instagram. "Dear Illini fans, after a great offseason and tons of excitement to live out a lifelong dream this season, I'm saddened to say I've suffered a season-ending knee injury. I'm already looking forward to coming back even better than before, and I'm in great hands here. I trust in God's timing and am still incredibly excited for our team to do big things this year. I came here to help us win, and I will do whatever it takes." Now, I've been talking about Illini offense for a good bit, I feel like, over the past couple of weeks, about the excitement that I actually have for the talent on the offensive side of the football. But losing a guy like Cole Rusk at this stage of practices is really going to be a tough blow to overcome. I would argue that the tight end room was possibly the worst room that we had as a team. And now the guy who I have been hearing nothing but fantastic stuff about, Cole Rusk, being injured for the year, leaves a gaping hole at that tight end position. Does that mean that the Illinois offense I'm suddenly less optimistic for? No, not necessarily. Again, I just think there's so much talent in that running back room and the wide receivers room. But now the pressure is going to be a little bit on Luke Altmaier, who, again, from what it seemed, Cole Rusk was going to be his safety valve. The guy who, if he had to ultimately check down to the prototypical tight end that you want your quarterback's best friend to be. Now, this wasn't exactly surprising news, unfortunately. Word actually started releasing a couple of days ago on this injury, but most Illini content creators, me included, wanted it to be confirmed before anyone really, released a breaking news episode or anything like that. But again, this is just super unfortunate because Cole was a guy who, despite me not talking about all that often, the people who are watching these practices, who know a little bit about Murray State and programs of that ilk, they were super excited about Cole Rusk. And he's a guy who, now that I think back on it, I wish I brought up his name a little bit more, because the fact that I haven't brought up his name, I don't want any of you assuming that this wasn't a big blow, but I genuinely think it was. Who does Cole get replaced by at the tight end spot? I think it's going to be more of a committee type of thing. When you think about, again, being Luke Altmaier's safety valve, you're probably going to be counting on Carson Goda, the Division II transfer that we got late in the offseason. He's a talented player, but at only 6'2", 235 pounds, isn't nearly as big as Cole Rusk was going to be. That, again, we're less than 3 weeks away from the season. I don't think our enthusiasm needs to be dampened. I still think that this is a team that's going to surprise a lot of people. I think this is the team that's being overlooked by a lot of people. But it's just unfortunate that anytime I feel enthusiastic about a football team or a football season, something like this happens. A guy who I projected to be a starter, an important starter, a guy who was going to be the fallback for Luke Altmaier, if the wide receivers can get open on certain plays. Well, he's gone now, but that doesn't mean that Brett Bielema is off the hook. This is going to be an extremely important year, and a tight end is a position which, honestly, I'm very shocked that Brett hasn't been able to get more talent in, considering his history of developing the position. But 6 wins is still the expectation, and it's really the minimum should be acceptable here for the Illini this upcoming season. And with or without Cole Rusk, my opinion on that does not change. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Next up in the Big Ten preview series, we're going to be talking Iowa Hawkeyes football. And there's no one better to talk Iowa football than my next guest, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Sunny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, Jeffrey. Not that anyone needs an introduction to who you are, but please let the folks know where they can find you.
Yes, on Twitter, Jeffrey the Greek, at Jeffrey the Greek, pretty much how it sounds. I am the co-host of the Eyes on Big podcast, where we cover all 18, that's right, 18 teams in the Big Ten officially as of today. But the Iowa Hawkeyes are always number one in my heart. So when somebody has me on to just talk about my alma mater, it always feels good.
Jeffrey's my go-to on pretty much every show I have on YouTube whenever I need anyone to talk, whether it is Iowa football or just Big Ten in general. Not that he likes hearing this, but Jeffrey has been for a while my favorite podcast covering the Big Ten. And one of the reasons I actually got into this whole industry myself. So Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming on.
Wow. That's high praise. I appreciate that.
Let's get into Hawkeyes football. Now, obviously, the big storyline over the offseason is going to be Brian Ferentz out, Tim Lester in. Now, having said that, what kind of differences are you expecting to see in that Iowa offense?
I'm still struggling to answer this question because I don't know if it's fair to say big differences, but I would definitely say noticeable differences. The big question out there is, will the old man, KF, Kirk Ferentz, actually allow the changes to happen? I get it. I understand where the question comes from. This will be Tim Lester's. So I have no qualms with saying that out loud. We're putting this on a recording. It will be Tim Lester's offense. With that being said, it is Kirk Ferentz's ship, which means it's not like they're going to suddenly switch to a 65-35 pass to run ratio. It's still going to be a ball control offense, protect your defense, play that style, but it's going to look a little bit different when Iowa. It's going to look different. I really hope so when Iowa throws the ball. So that much I am definitely confident in. And the last thing I would add is RPOs. That's right. RPOs are coming to Iowa City, which is huge for us simple folks.
So let's talk about the quarterback situation. Obviously, you guys have Cade McNamara back there, but he's been hurt the last couple seasons, and you brought in Brendan Sullivan. Is there any sort of QB controversy out there, or are you confident that Cade is going to be the starter?
I feel like in my bones, the people that are talking about Cade getting beat out by Brendan Sullivan really just want to make a story. Okay. I think it's Cade's job to lose. Now, does that say that Brendan Sullivan can't come in and do it? No. I wonder also if Brendan Sullivan can have packages, because I know the coaches love his legs. He's an athletic quarterback. And said, it feels like we have two quarterbacks that can play Big Ten football. Last year we had 0 quarterbacks that could play Big Ten football after about week 3 or 4. So it's something that it seems to be quite an improvement either way. So I think it'll be Cade McNamara, but the depth is improved either way.
All right. So again, Iowa's not necessarily known for their offense. And, despite the change at the offensive side of the football, I don't expect that to change much. But what are other, key names and game breakers to kind of pay attention to on that side of the football for next season?
It's Iowa, right? So if you're going to ask me who the star is, we're going to go to the tight end position. It's funny on, the magazines that you use here, Luke Lachey is not listed as a returning starter, which is silly. He's definitely a returning, has a chance, all Big Ten, all American at the tight end position. We've got depth behind him that looks good. The running back room is deep. To use NCAA college football ratings, I don't know if we have anybody in the offensive backfield that's like a 90, but we have 4 guys that are like an 84 or 85, type of deal, like 4 solid runs. So feel pretty good about that. The offensive line is old. I don't know how else the best way to say it, but it is an offensive line that finally looked better last year, especially in the running game. Mm-hmm. They're all back. Then it kind of drops off sharp after that, because the wide receivers are a lot to figure out. There's some signs that they will be coming out of the wilderness, but for most Iowa fans, until we see it, see Caleb Brown looking good and Seth Anderson and some of the Jarrett Boo and some of these guys that we're hearing about, that's where the major concern's at.
Okay, let's switch to the side that Iowa fans do enjoy talking about, and that's Phil Parker's defense. So I actually just want to ask a question right off the bat. Is Phil Parker at any point close to retiring? Have you heard any whispering, or is he kind of, content doing whatever he's doing right now for the foreseeable future?
This is me speaking for the career goals and plans for Phil Parker, of which I am not aware of. But if I had to guess, this is what Phil Parker does. He gets out of bed and he thinks defense. I think he's essentially a savant. I don't think he has a ton of things he loves to do outside of the football complex other than coach defenders how to properly position themselves in a 4-3 defense to attack. This is what he does. I don't think he's ever really wanted to be the head coach. I feel like the day after he retired, he would annoy his wife and friends and family, so I think he will do this as long as he's allowed to do it. And I'll speak for Iowa fans. I hope that's the case.
Do you think his career is kind of tied to whatever Kirk Ferentz does, or do you think even once Kirk is gone that Phil would still want to stick around?
That is a great question. I wish I had that answer. My guess is it would depend on who the next coach is. Not for sure. If Coach Ferentz is leaving anytime soon, there's reasons to believe that this could be Coach Ferentz's last year. I will admit that, but I know nothing of any plans like that. So after that, who was hired. If that person is comfortable with Phil Parker, and if Phil Parker is comfortable with that person, I think that person would be borderline crazy not to keep him around.
All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about the guys on the defensive side of the football for the Hawkeyes. Cooper DeJean is gone. But that we know when you think about Iowa football, you'll have plenty of replacements. So, Jeffrey, let's just kind of talk about the defensive side of the football. What is in store for the 2024 season?
Feel very strong about this side of the ball. Again, lots of seniors, lots of juniors. I think you could say 9 or even 10 returning stars are coming back to the defense. It always starts with the defensive line. In any defense, Iowa is no exception. I really like the defensive line. There's definitely 6 dudes, 7 or 8, probably dudes that I feel good about. The only thing I don't feel great about is 1 or 2 guys that are going to be that pass rush specialist. I see potential, but if this defense is going to be go from great to elite, we'll need to see one of these guys to step up and be that pass rush guy. There's candidates, but we will see. As you move through the defense, the linebackers are at least in the running for the best linebackers in the country with Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson. Jay Higgins is incredible. Just shout out to Jay Higgins, a consummate professional and just awesome dude, awesome family. Hawkeye fans love him. Then you've got another All-American that's a linebacker, corner, safety combo in Sebastian Castro. He was absolutely amazing last year. And then we feel pretty good about the rest of the secondary as well. A lot of returning talent, as well as John Nestor, who has the same traits as Cooper DeJean at cornerback. We lots of things to about with the defense once again for Phil Parker.
All right, so we talked about the defense, and when you think Iowa football, especially for the last couple of years, arguably your best player was Tory Taylor, who now is going to be the starting punter for my Chicago Bears. But does that mean that the Iowa special teams takes a step back, or are you guys just recruiting another Australian who's just going to replace them?
Well, very huge respect for special teams coach LeVar Woods. So the one thing I would say is, if Iowa was ranked 14th, I'm just kind of making a number up, in special teams, technically that would be taking a step back because our special teams have been so incredible the last several years. Is that possible? Maybe. New punter, right? You don't lose an all-world punter and get better at that position. With that being said, it comes from Australia, Rise Dakin. What we are told, he's got an absolute boomer of a leg. The one thing I would say, though, is that I hope Bears fans are going to find out is that Tory Taylor has a big leg. I think, as we've kind of talked about, I think it's on par with a lot of the big punters in the NFL, but his accuracy on putting the ball out is what was all world. And you can't expect a freshman punter to have that type of right from the get-go. And then you lose as a return as well. So those are the major hits. We're hoping the place kicking can kind of solidify itself, but overall it should be another strong special teams unit.
All right. So Jeffrey, I need your help for something real quick. Iowa's schedule, as I'm looking at it, you only play one of the big 4. You're talking about, a defense who consistently is always one of the best in the Big Ten. A new change on the offensive side, special teams, which I expect to be, similar to what it usually year in and year out. Tell me how I should not just put my mortgage on that over under 7.5 wins for the Iowa Hawkeyes. What am I missing here?
It's gone up. I think it's mostly sitting at 8 on a lot of websites right now. My brother and I, another Hawkeye. Yeah, I don't hate 8. I'll say that much. My brother and I, Hawkeye fan, we were just talking about this recently, and we both said the same thing. The only thing I hate about that 7.5 or 8 number is the number itself, where what does Vegas know? And that right. Scares you. Everything else you just named seems to be over, but it's been that number, 7.5, 8 for the past couple off seasons, and Iowa's easily cleared that bar. So it's really kind of the same as it's been the last couple off seasons. I don't get it. I would call the schedule manageable with but a little tricky. I think there's a couple spots on the schedule that, there's a couple tough teams here and there that people aren't considering, but I don't bet it because I'm superstitious betting on or against, but I don't see any reason why Illinois fan, Iowa hater, I would think, at least to a certain degree, wouldn't want to put that bet in.
All right. I mean, speaking of, hating, and I guess I wouldn't really call it a rivalry, but for me, like, even scheduling this Iowa interview was funny because I wanted to start off with teams that Illinois was not facing on our upcoming schedule. And for Iowa to be a team that wasn't on the schedule, it's kind of it's a huge change from years past. Is that something you noticed on your side? Is that, any sort of something you're going to miss?
Very much so. I don't like that Iowa isn't playing Illinois. And then another one is Minnesota and Nebraska. Minnesota and Nebraska aren't playing each other either. So, like, good, bad, or indifferent with the 4 teams coming in, losing rivalries like that. I know Nebraska and Minnesota, not exactly called a border rivalry, but it had geographic rivalries. The fan bases have been increasingly heated, to each other on Twitter. Stinks. I hate not playing those games. So that's, I don't know. I would love to, like, obviously Illinois, Iowa is more of a rivalry in basketball. No doubt about that. But with that being said, it's still like a rivalry at times on the football. Sad to see.
Have you felt the wrath of Illinois fans on social media, like a lot of other, I guess, content creators complain about?
Basketball season, let's just say there could be times where people that I follow and interact with during football season perhaps get muted for 3 or 4 months during the winter. I'll just put it that way.
All right, Jeffrey, as you kind of alluded to earlier, today is the day that we officially welcome the 4 teams from the West Coast into the Big Ten Conference. As someone who's been covering the conference for a couple of years now, what are your thoughts on, this new version of what the Big Ten is going to look like?
It's odd. I think a lot of Big Ten fans have the same feeling towards it. It's not like I want Oregon or Washington fans or whomever to not feel welcome. That's not the thought process, but it's odd. It's like, your favorite uncle bringing a new wife in that, and it just feels weird. There's a transition period or something like that. There is we were fine as a conference before you 4 teams came in, and don't you forget it. That is definitely a feeling that I have, and I think a lot of Big Ten fans have. But I would be lying if I didn't say Oregon, Ohio State is going to be fun to watch when, Washington comes into Kinnick. Going to be interesting to see how that looks. So, I'm interested and excited. Obviously, I'm going to watch the football as it's being projected on my TV screen. We'll see how it just projects or how it kind of feels as we move through the year. And then the next 4 or 5 years, as it hopefully doesn't change. And this is kind of how the teams are in the conference. It's an adjustment period for sure. Like I had said on a different podcast, Oklahoma, Texas coming into the SEC, that still feels regional. There was already Texas teams in the SEC. It's not a cultural change. West Coast coming into the Midwest we're talking, it's a different region of football. I do business on the West Coast and in the Midwest. I can tell you there's a different style with that. It's going to be a different style with this as well. So we will see how this all works out.
Yeah, for better or worse, this was definitely a decision not necessarily the fans were clamoring for, but the guys who were being paid a lot of money made this sort of decision. So we'll see ultimately down the road. Like you said, it does set up for some really marquee matchups, and I guess the overall health of the conference goes up a little bit. Yeah, but I guess we're just kind of sitting wait and see mode. Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming on again. Now this is, I believe, the 3rd show of mine that you've been so gracious to come on. Anything you want to say before you leave?
No, let's make it 4, 5, 6. Keep having me on. Love talking to you, Sunny. Love your content. Thanks for having me again at Greek Eyes on Big podcast. We've done almost all of our team deep dives. We've got 3 more to go. So if you're a fan of any of those teams in the Big Ten, check it out.
And I will definitely leave a link to the Eyes on Big podcast in my description of this video.
Awesome.
Jeffrey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't look now. The Cubs are getting hot. If you want to go check them out at Wrigley Field, please use the Game Time app. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, there you have it. That's just about wraps it up for today's Friday edition of Locked On Illini. Again, full disclosure, I'm on 1 hour of sleep in the last 40 hours. I'm transitioning to a different part of the country. And if I'm going to ask you for support for being one of the few, if not the only daily Illini channels out there, well, then I need to provide you content daily. A couple days ago on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, a Twitter account reached out and said, hey, name some of your favorite Big Ten content creators. And Illinois was one of the teams that was listed. And I just want to give a shout out to It's Just Garrett, also known as ILL Lunatic. And if you follow him on Twitter, you'll certainly know why. The guy's super passionate, but he mentioned my name. And he just said, love the pod. I wake up early and throw it on while I'm in the shower, getting ready for work. Keep it up. It might seem like a comment that just a throwaway comment, something that doesn't mean anything to the general layman. But let me tell you, as someone who now, I believe this is episode 12 or 13 days in a row, sometimes I sit here on a mic and I record. You know, I've got a mic in front of me, I got a camera in front of me, and I don't necessarily know who is receiving this. So getting comments like that, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So Garrett, I appreciate you. Those of you watching, let me know where you're watching this from. You know, give me a shout out. Let me know a little bit about you. I'd love to get to know this community a little bit more, and especially with the football season coming around the corner and basketball season, man, by the time basketball season comes, this channel is going to be popping. So, I just want to lay out the invitation for all of you, especially for the next couple of weeks. I want to give personal shout outs. Find me on Twitter, find me on X, whatever it may be. If you can help me promote this channel, I want to give you the proper love here at Locked On Illini. You don't have to do any of that, though. Again, if you want to just do something very simple, all I ask is for that like, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't look like we're going to hit quite the 1,000 this week that I was hoping to hit, but I think at the time of this recording, we're at about 980. So who knows? Strong next couple of days, we might still hit it. I'll do my best to come up with some content to discuss over the weekend. We'll see how the family reacts to me getting away from unpacking and recording a couple episodes for you guys. But, honestly, you guys make it worth it. And so I know how lucky I am to have been given this opportunity. And I just want you guys to know that I don't take any of it for granted. ILL, love you guys.